After exposing for quite a while the richness of the text in Genesis 1, let's go to the second chapter. I'm mostly going to concentrate on the second chapter, Genesis 2, but also a few words on Genesis 3, which are also interesting. So let's dive into this. And this is one of my favorite stories. I practically know it by heart now. There was nothing on the surface of the earth, because God had not sent the rain, and there were no humans to cultivate the soil. Out of this desert, God made some water gush out from the soil and water it. And from this mud, God shaped the first human being and blew the breath into his nostrils. And the human being became a living being. Then God went to Eden, to a garden. He planted that garden with trees that are beautiful to look at and that bear delicious fruit. And God took the human and brought him in the garden so he could till it and keep it. What a great story. And in just a few verses, I got a lot to say. So let's start. The first one is that Adam is not an extraterrestrial. He's not an alien. He is profoundly terrestrial. He comes from the earth. He's really an earthling. He's made of the elements that surround us. He's made from earth, from water, because the water gushes out and waters the soil, and air. Oh, notice also that this is considered the second story of creation, because it's not a continuation of the first one. In the first one, remember, there's water, and the Spirit of God was hovering over the water, and then there's water above, water below, and then the continent appears on the third day. So the story starts with water, and finally there's soil, the continent later on. This story starts with a desert. The earth is a desert, and then God makes water gush out and then waters the soil. So once we get this mud, God shapes that mud and blows the breath of life. So we're made of air. We are made of earth, water, and air. This is an amazing myth to present that we are earthlings. Lots of the things I'm going to talk about now come from a book from David Suzuki. The book is called The Sacred Balance. And the way the book is made is really interesting because there's one chapter about how we are the air. We're made of air. We're made of water. We are made of earth, and touches a bit on fire as well. And then it talks about community. It talks about what is sacred. And this was a real eye-opener. I loved this book. I do strongly suggest it. So let's start with the first one. We are air. We breathe from 20 to 40 times a minute from our birth to our death. And when we breathe in, the air goes in the lungs and finally get to the ends there. And that's where the oxygen merges with our blood, and it hops onto the red cells and then just flows through our body to the extremities. So the air that was in front of us a few moments ago is not only inside our lungs, but inside our body, through the blood and then exchange with the different tissues inside our bodies, going through our different organs, and then there's a reaction there, and then we breathe out. So the air goes inside and outside of us constantly. We can't say that down there, that's the environmental air, and this is my air, I'm in a bubble. No, we're not. It's not how it works. We keep on exchanging that air all the time. So, what intelligent creature, knowing that air is so important and so sacred, that would just keep on polluting the air, thinking there will be no consequences? We have to remember we are air. We are water because we're made of water, anywhere between 60 and 80%, depending on our health, depending on our genes, the way we're made. And 70% is the surface of the planet, made of water. We call it planet Earth, but we should honestly call it planet ocean, because there's 70%. There's more ocean than continent. But even more interesting is the salinity. If you measure the salinity in a sample of blood, okay, so you go take a blood sample, and then in that blood you take away whatever's solid. So red cells, white cells, the plaques, and then finally you get a liquid called plasma. Well, that salinity of our blood is 3.5%. And if you take a sample from ocean water, from the Atlantic, the Pacific, the Indian Ocean, you'll get about 3.5%. And if you take a sample of blood from a lizard, from a squirrel, from a beaver, from a dog, from a bird, you always get 3.5%. We all have a bit of ocean rushing in our blood. Life comes from the ocean, and we kept that. Our bodies to function well still need that amount, that concentration. So that's I'm always amazed by that. Here's a map of the planet showing 70% of the surface is water. Same thing for the amount in our body. So we are made of water. And to be healthy, we have to continue having clean water. So what intelligent creature would just spill out so many chemical products in the water that is necessary for our health and the health of so many other living things? We are water. And now we are earth. We are earth, and that one is probably the easiest because we eat vegetables, fruits that grew on the earth or in the soil for roots, like carrots. And we know that it took the elements from the soil to build up. Or if we eat meat, well, we're eating the muscles of an animal that took those elements from vegetables and grain from the soil. So basically, these are the same elements, just rearranged. We are made from the same elements as the Earth's crust. And then we can taste all the fruits of the earth. So which intelligent creature would spray poison on what he or she is about to eat? And it's not just a problem about the herbicides and the pesticides that go on the leaves or on the plants themselves or on the fruit even, but it's that those pesticides are killing what's good in the soil. All of those good bacteria, all of those good insects that keep the soil alive and actually help produce even more. And then after a few years, sometimes some fields are just left there, abandoned. We've completely depleted the soil. Which intelligent creature would spray poison on what they're about to eat? Makes no sense. We are made of air. We're made of water. We're made of earth. We are the air. We are water. We are earth. We are made of the stuff that surrounds us. We are the environment. David Suzuki finishes his book with this: we are the environment, and we must restore that sacred balance that allowed humanity to be born.